and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're looking ahead to the Junior Championship semi-finals coming up this weekend in the Box Athletic Grounds. We're delighted to be joined by Johnny Murtagh, Barra and Padraig Rafferty, and we're going to look ahead to the two games that are coming up. Both live on Armagh TV on Saturday and Sunday. There's two double headers this weekend, one junior with one intermediate each day. So we're going to look at the junior, and we're going to start with Portmore against Middletown. This is Saturday in the Box Athletic Grounds, and it's at 4 p.m. And Johnny, I'll come to you first. Obviously, Crossmaglen played both these teams this year in league and championship. Middletown fresh in your mind, obviously. It was your last game in the quarter-final. I suppose just give us a sort of a rundown of what you thought of Middletown that night.
Yeah, I thought they were highly impressive. I thought they were they're very diligent in the homework. They had us to a tee. Like, we like to play the ball out of defence. They stayed high. They look for turnovers. They got lots of contact. They're big and strong around the middle. And I thought probably Clarkie's in there coaching with them, and him and McCann's the manager. I thought they were impressive and just the way they set themselves up. We tend to go 99% long for kickouts, and they're very well organised in boxing off and straight in on a break ball. So on the other end, on their own end of it, James in goals is very, very steady. He finds his men with a lot of kickouts. They're well organised and go short, go long, and they're a big physical team. The hurler seems to be buying in, albeit now we're starting to get into the business end for hurling now as well, which could possibly take its toll. But I imagine, I haven't watched the hurling the weekend. It didn't look like it sort of looked like they came through unscathed, and the convincing win. So I think they'll be in good spirits. They seem to be targeting it all right, and I think it's going to be a hell of a battle.
Padraig, you were over to someone this year, and you played Middletown in I think it was the first round of the championship. Yeah. So feels like a lifetime ago now. But from your memories, what did you make of them?
Yeah, as Johnny said, they're very well organised, especially in the kickouts. Quite about 5 to 6 different kickout options. Obviously, Marty Maguire wasn't there that day, so he wasn't so eliminated that bit of a threat from him. But there was other boys that stepped up. So there was in the middle, like a centre half forward, midfielders as well. The goalkeeper has plenty of kickout options, and then if you drop back, as you said, the keeper's not afraid to go short either. So he's not. So they have as many threats from the kickouts as possible. So they do breaking ball again. With the likes of the hurlers and all, they're not afraid to get in. Mix themselves about a wee bit. So they're that's another positive for them. And then again up front, the three lads up front they're very, very hard to handle. So they are. The full forward line very, very dangerous. They've quite a lot of fitness breaking through the line as well. Big, strong, physical team, and they'll probably want to utilise that as best as they can this weekend. A lot of physicality and fitness that they bring with it being the dual club. That
big midfield battle, Barra, that we're going to talk about. John McLaughlin, obviously, he's the current junior player of the year. Yeah. Him and Marty Maguire had a massive tussle last year in the semi-final. Maguire's not there now, as Padraig mentioned. But they've a lot of big men, like there's Charlie Lennon and round there, a couple of Charlie McCardle and boys like that. Who's going to go up against McLaughlin? Like how big of a battle is this going to be?
Yeah, you've got the wee bit of experience with Charlie McCardle and the fresh new approach of Charlie Lennon. Charlie Lennon's there as a ball winner. He's got a great pair of hands, a big, tall fella. Would have coached him through the under-16s in Armagh. I know him fairly well. He's bringing energy to that team as well, and just what the two other boys had said, a typical, to me, whenever we play them, typical hurling team. You may, if you're setting up to play them in hurling, I'd say they play the exact same way. It's all, you're going to get hit if you're in possession. You're going to get pressed hard. You're going to get it very difficult to win their kickouts, especially. And if Marty Maguire's playing, you get it very tight to win your own kickouts. If Marty Maguire's not playing, that's a massive bonus for Portmore. If he was to play, it might slightly neutralise John McLaughlin in the middle, slightly neutralise it. But neither of the two boys mentioned Fernando Brennan, the third top scorer. I think he is 323 or something in the championship. He's been a reliable go-to man for for them the whole way through the championship. And I know Portmore have their own go-to men, as do Clonmore and Thomas Davis. You know, that's why teams get to this stage of the championship, because they've got a forward, I suppose it was Johnny for cross seconds, who is just getting the scores game on game and getting their team over the edge. So they'll be looking for a massive performance out of Fanon, and it's who does the matchups in the defence for and Portmore that's going to determine that one.
I'll come to you with that one, Padraig, because I know you were on Armagh TV duty for the Portmore and Ballyhagan game, and it was Seamus Hughes picked up James McCormick that day and kept him scoreless for Portmore. So is he going to get the task of going on Finan O'Brien, do you think?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And just after his performance on James McCormick, which was, you know, everybody was talking about how Ballyhagan maybe didn't perform going forward, but as I said during the match, it was a huge credit to Portmore's defence. The defensive setup was perfect, and even when Ballyhagan got that bit of a breeze in the second half in the match, you thought, here we go, maybe a few 2-point opportunities and whatnot, but they didn't utilise them at all. And then what happens is then you've Keelan Rice come back as well. So, you know, Keelan last year picked up, you know, the best forwards in the county in junior for Portmore, so they did. So he's going to be a massive bonus coming back as well. So you have the pick of the bunch there between probably the two of the best man markers in the junior football.
Yeah, it's going to be key. And obviously on the other side with Ryan Gorman, Johnny, who sort of plays, he can sort of play in the forward line, maybe in the half back line, bushing forward as well, but it's his free taking as well. Like he rarely misses, and he's a huge 2-point threat, so he's going to have a big game, you'd imagine.
He'll have a big game, and he's a bit of pace. He's very good at getting on break ball as well. You know, there's lots of different aspects. But funny, as the boys was talking out there, I actually think Finon's probably unplayable at the minute. Barra, he's just been magnificent. He's a serious turn of pace, very, very direct. You know, and probably just something to add to the fellas. Like Maguire's not going to be there. He's out for the season. But I'm just saying, if it was me, I would give up the kick out. And as soon as that ball is live in defender hands, I'd get the high press on again and what they've been doing, especially what they've done to us. And I think if they do that, they win the game. It's that simple for me, because I think you can't let Big John dictate matters in midfield. Like, you think of it, you put the two young lads, and they've been immense in midfield. They've bring a lot of pace, and I'll be honest with you, I actually think the balance of the team's probably a wee bit better without Marty at the minute. Maybe he'd be a good option coming on and putting him in full forward, you know, if he was fit. But the balance of the team and the pace that them boys bring, and there are no slouches in around midfield either. But to handle John is like it. You have to play against him to really see it. You know, like, he catches ball in midfield and straight away he can put it straight into the forward line. You know, so you nullify that straight away. And what you want to do with him is frustrate the life out of him. And how you frustrate the life out of him is keep the ball away from him. You know, and he will, you know, he'll play up a wee bit and he'll get a wee bit off his game, as any of the boys knows him. You know, he wants to be on the ball, he wants to dictate matters, and he can do it, you know, to no problem, and put himself about, and you'll not bully him, you'll not do any of them things, you know. So that would be the approach I think could be the difference in this game, Sean.
Well, Barra, you were in this position at the start of the championship where you're planning for Portmore, you're planning for Big John. What way did Newtown approach it at the start of the year?
Yeah, look, we had Big Emmett O'Malley and Sean McVary at midfield, and the two of them, probably they're just round the right age profile for taking on big challenges in the junior championship. We tried to break it away. We tried to be competitive out around the middle, which worked for us in that game. You know, if you remember back to that game, there was a goal in it. We had a goal disallowed. You know, a contentious enough sort of square ball. The winning or losing of the game that night wasn't the important thing for us. It was the competing. You know, it was that if you were to meet and Portmore down the line in the championship, that both teams would remember, you know, how to go about it. And, you know, we talked, or Johnny talked there about Ryan Gorman, the second highest scorer in the championship, after Darragh McNulty. If Darragh's watching this, he had a superb year for Portmore, and fair play to him. But Ryan Gorman, you know, when we were playing again him and when we were setting up for him, we were allowing him to be elusive. You know, we were, instead of tracking him back into there. We were trying to wait till he come up to the 2 point zone to give him that wee bit of freedom if he wanted to play lateral or that there. But they've other irons in the fire. I remember sitting on Portmore last year talking with Cormac Kieran and just saying when Cormac's on it, he's very, very difficult to mark. And from our point of view, trying to get man marking on him, you can go tight, you can go too tight on him. He's got a fantastic turn, and once he gets turned towards goal, like he's very difficult to stop. And then Davy and Mark Curran, whatever part they play in it, they bring huge experience in there as well. So Portmore will fancy themselves big time going into this game. Middletown, it was mentioned about the hurling. I think in Middletown, I think hurling's always going to come first for them. I think they're going to want to continue the dominance of the hurling championship. There's nobody going to want to pick up an injury in this game to miss out in the junior in the hurling final. So Portmore need to go at it 100 mile an hour and believe in their own ability and just come up with a plan to get over the line to get them into the final. That's the way I see it.
Portmore probably are the favourites here, probably just because they've won the league. They were in the final last year, probably should have won the final or could have won the final, but Middletown brought them to extra time in the semi-final last year, so that's going to be in the back of their heads too, that they know they can push this Portmore team all the way.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that the likes of Middletown they'd fancied themselves more as the championship went on. Definitely when they get the hurlers back and the team chemistry gets a wee bit better, they'll definitely they'll fancy themselves so well. But as the boys were saying, Portmore is going in as the favourites. There is players like the likes of Cormac, that ran, boys like even Gavin Kelly, who's been brilliant, picked up quite a lot of ball against Ballyhagan, playing as sort of like a half bit of a sweeper, suited and collected a lot of ball and bringing it out, doing a simple job. So it was the matchups will be very, very even, I think, whenever you look at both forward lines in terms of Cormac in there and Finnan inside for Middletown. What's going to sort of tip the scales maybe is the effort that they do off the ball. So there's the likes of Cormac, he puts in a massive amount of effort that's probably unseen. Everybody knows of his scoring threat, but whenever you get to watch the game, I've been lucky enough to commentate on the games, you get to see how much tracking back he does as well, and the effort that he does to bring the team over the line. He sort of sacrifices himself in that sort of instance, and then wins the ball back. There's more times even against Middletown last year in that extra time game that he was back in the defence and he had won about 2 or 3 balls to get that team over the line. Exact same against College Land in the final. In the replay, he stepped up again, done the hard work, and without his brother Justin there, he has to put that wee bit of an extra tussle in, and he does it every single game. But Middletown, as I said, they will fancy themselves going into this game. As the championship went on, as the group stages went on, you can see them starting to get a wee bit better each game. And they're probably thinking in the back of their heads, right, this is our time, this is us ready to go. Everything needs to click, and they've one game to do it. Yeah,
that's huge from a Middletown perspective. Just on a player that Padraig touched on there, Johnny, is Justin Kieran, who obviously got injured, 2, 3, 4 games in the league campaign, so we haven't seen him in his full capacity yet with Portmore, but he was warming up against Ballyhagan. But I don't know how fit he is. Is he available? Is he going to come in and play a part here if he's needed? If you were the Portmore manager, how would you manage him? Are you going to throw him in if he's needed? Or are you going to maybe hope that you can see it out and maybe in 2 weeks' time he'll be ready for the final?
No, I wouldn't. There's no managing on it for me. I think he's out for the season. It's that straightforward. He, when you see the seriousness of his injury and the time frame, it just doesn't match up. Maybe if he had till Christmas, it'd be a different story. But it's just I knew he done bits of warm ups and stuff like that, and whatever mind games he's playing. But I don't think any of the teams that's left expects to see him, and I don't think any of us boys expect to see him either, because I think for a man of his calibre and the class that he has, it'd be impossible to risk yourself. Albeit he wants to win, absolutely, but unfortunately he's going to have to bring leadership to it, and chat to the boys as much as I think Sean is going to be fit to give.
But he's this is probably a foregone conclusion if he was playing.
Yeah, it's an awful pity for obviously for Justy himself and for the Portmore club, but for the neutrals who's watching Portmore, you were all watching them last year on their run to the final, and when they added Justy in the off season, I for one was going, well, they're the bookies' favourites there, like, and then for him to be missing out, yeah, it's that has to be physio led and doctor led, like whatever it is. If it's at this stage of it, win, lose or draw, you're trying to get Justy at peak Justy fitness for the start of next season at this stage, and you wouldn't want to do anything that would set him back. Just on the referee on Saturday, so Paddy's down to referee it, and Paddy likes the game to flow and he doesn't want any nonsense in the game. I think that'll suit Middletown down to the ground. I know from playing against them, it could be seen to the outside that every time you play them's a battle, but it's a physical battle. It's not a dirty battle. There's nothing. Anytime we played them, there's nothing sinister to it. Like, it's just hard hitting, and Johnny, you'd have seen that in the last game. It's honest. The man will nearly pick you up after he knocked you out. So it's Portmore playing to that standard as well. It's Portmore going at it hard and not giving Paddy the opportunity to say, this, I don't like the way this is going. And they both have to play the referee well on Saturday, I think.
Well, I think from a neutral, we want to see that. Padraig, don't we want to see that physical encounter as much as we want to see the good football game?
Yeah, definitely. And I thought it was an aspect that Portmore were going to bring into the Ballyhagan game. I thought that they were going to come out in the second half and they were probably going to be physical and they were probably going to get close to Ballyhagan, the likes of the two McGreens, McCann and McCormick that was inside. But they didn't even. It was just, they were so well drilled and they were so well put together that there was none of that. So there was a bit of argy-bargy, but you're going to get that in the Championship, and everybody wants to see that in the Championship because it means so much to everybody. But at the same time, they were so well set up. Barra says we played against Middletown, it was the exact same thing for us. They were very, very physical, and you knew they were going to be physical. You knew that from the get-go, and they always have been, whether they play the dual sports, no matter what it is. But as I said, there's a wee bit of sportsmanship about it, so there is, you get hit, you move on, and you play the game. And that's what they'll do. They'll try and do that as best as they can. And I personally think both teams will be evenly matched, and I think it'll just go down to the wire. So
well, let's get predictions, Johnny, from this game. Who do you see coming out on top?
Middletown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barra?
Portmore for me.
Padraig, you're the deciding vote?
yeah, and it's Portmore for me, so it is, yeah.
Portmore, okay. We'll move on to the second one with Clonmore against Thomas Davis. This is Sunday in the Box Athletic Grounds at 3 o'clock. Barra, we went to Johnny. They played Middletown most recently. You obviously played Clonmore most recently and gives them their biggest test and the biggest scare of the Championship so far. Both preparing for them and what they actually wore when you faced them. What do you make of them? Yeah,
look at they're. To me, they were predictable in how they were going to come about the game. They have a good setup. They have a very strong base. They have a good running game, and we prepared for Sean Quigley. He lines out at say 6 or 7, but he doesn't play there, and it's that's a front. Daniel Cullen sort of slips back. Brenton Donaghy sort of plays that 6, and it gives Sean a free license to go. And when you looked at some of the, he's scored 8-4 in the Championship so far. But if you look at some of the games that were played in the group stages, teams just went at it completely naively. They just thought, well, there's no point in marking the centre half back. But by that stage, they put someone on him, he had scored 3 goals because he's really, really low centre of gravity, covers the ground very quickly, can take contact, and it'll keep going. So when we were setting up for them, we took Oisín Hollywood, one of our better man markers, out completely and just told him, go and mark Sean Quigley from the get-go and just block him. Don't foul him, don't pull him, don't do anything. And once Sean Quigley laid it off through a dummy in the first half, got on the end of it and put it over the bar. That was his only score of the game. That game, I was really happy with how we coped with him. Caelan Donaghy in the middle is an absolute beast for them, where we put all our kickouts away from Caelan Donaghy and done well with our kickouts. We don't think we could have done much better with our kickouts. We competed with all theirs, but when the game got into the clutch moment of the game, he fetched maybe 3 in a row coming towards the end of that. He kicked a 2-pointer as well. He had tried 2 2-pointers before that, and again there was a crossover where Quigley ran across and two of our men went with Quigley thinking he was the danger, and he just strode in and hit a 2-pointer. And when you're coming down the line, and there's at that stage maybe there was a point in it or that, that's how Thomas Davis need to set up, without telling their manager how to do their job. But if they push up and get aggressive with Quigley, if they try and manage Caelan Lavery, and if they get the ball for it, the other part of our game was we tried to hit the inside line as quickly as possible. Now, we were missing Paddy McVerry, Conor Rock and Pierce Woods from our forward line. So our forward line was a wee bit disjointed. We only scored 9 points. So 12-9. If you had said to me that we were going to keep Clonmore till 12, I would have said we would have won the game. But for us then to only return 9, it was a difficult week for us that week as well. We had buried our club chairman only a few days before it. We tried to use that as a motivating factor in that, but it's just always happening too quickly for us, and we just come up short in that. But there is a blueprint in what we did and how we set about it for Thomas Davis, or if Clonmore overcome Thomas Davis, for whoever Clonmore get in the final, to try and replicate something like that. But it wasn't enough for us. Clonmore still got by us, still got past us, and still got the job done. So they're no walkovers, like.
Just on the Sean Quigley thing, Johnny, that Barra is speaking about going and having the man mark him, it's no coincidence that was the only game that they didn't get a goal in this year. They've scored 19 goals in the championship. In the 3 group games, didn't get any against St Michael's, so that's an obvious tactic that Barra's talking about, that Thomas Davis have to go after that.
Yeah, well, man marking the fault 6 isn't easy, and Barra alluded to they're done a serious job on him, but then again he get used to that. Every game he didn't have a man marker on him, so now he knows what to suspect. Probably the next day, and if so, the day after that, the possibly he's going to be man marked. So they'll come up with another plan on that, and just because he didn't score a goal against Newtown, that doesn't mean he doesn't score 2 or 3 the weekend. Do you know what I mean? That's because playing in that position, there's so many different pieces of the jigsaw that you have to watch, and he just needs to get on the end with his pace. And as Barra alluded to there, he's fit the right tackles, he's fit to get into dangerous positions. And they'll look for him. They know that he's coming. They know that he's coming. And a lot of his stuff, even when we've played them a good few times, has all been down through the middle. At coming at pace, coming on the right timing. And I even seen him collect the ball on his own end of midfield, and he put it in the bottom corner on the other end. So and just a couple of give and goes. So it's going to be tricky to do it, and not everybody, like I said, is set up to mark a fault 6. It's very, very difficult, and yeah, especially we're playing junior level at the end of the day, and to have a player, and then again you have to say to yourself, first of all, in a junior team, do you have that many man markers? And then secondly, right, okay, you're going to put your man marker on a man that's out the field, so potentially that leaves damage that can be done, elsewhere. So it's very difficult just to, I know it might sound good or sound a bit easier because Barra had the blueprint, but when you have to actually go and do it at this stage, it's not that easy to pin him down.
Yeah, and Padraig, we're probably spending a lot of time talking about Clonmore here. Thomas Davis, they're obviously in the semi-final in Murtagh. They beat O'Hanlon's by a point the last day out. But they're coming in here as massive underdogs, which can sometimes be a good thing, that there's no pressure on them, so they can go out, sort of throw the shackles off and never really go at it.
Yeah, we've definitely seen in all championships at the very start in the group stages that there was quite a lot of upsets. In the group stages, obviously you have that game to bounce back from, and you still have that chance to go through. But the thing with Thomas Davis, and they'll probably take massive confidence from it, is that they beat them in the first game of the league. So we'll be a Clonmore in the very first game. So, they do have that experience against them. They will have to be extremely disciplined, definitely extremely disciplined in terms of their defensive setup, due to Cunningham being, another deadly free kick taker. And Massey in junior, who, it pays dividends big time to have such a reliable place kicker, so it does, because it can be the difference between 1 point and 2 points, so it can be. But what Thomas Davis are going to have to do is that they're going to have to use Loughearn, they're going to have to use King, so they're going to have to bring these boys into the game. Yes, they sort of have to go try and nullify Clonmore running with the ball, and you can see that's why they've got so many scores, you know, especially goals. Even in the league, they've been a huge goal threat, you know, all year, so they have, and it's carried on into the championship. Now, the only thing that Thomas Davis can take away from it is that, and we've seen it with the likes of Ballyhiggins and stuff as well, is that they have that extra game under the belt. In the group stages, Clonmore seemed to, you know, stride through the group stages, you know, with ease, so they scored plenty of goals, as you said, 19 in the group stages. So that extra wee game actually can, you know, it can stand by it, especially against the O'Hanlon's team that we played twice, that were really well set up, and going through the championship, you look like, you know, they were going to get as far as they wanted, so they did, with the likes of McNulty and, you know, on the team as well. So I think as Clonmore, yes, they're massive favourites, everybody knows that in the championship, but at the same time, Thomas Davis definitely have a lot to work with.
Well, they have a good forward line, Barra, and that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Because they have Adam Loughearn, I think he's the 4th top scorer in the junior championship. They have Jordan King, Donny Shields, they have Ryan Courtney, I think he wears 14, but he plays more of a playmaker role. So if Thomas Davis can get enough ball into their forward line, you know, Adam Loughearn himself this year has been really, really impressive, and has been for the last couple of years. So they have enough firepower there to ask them more real questions.
And I know that Thomas Davis can pack it up as well, like, and that might be a way they might want to go. So when they don't have it, they might close that centre channel, which you know, both of the boys are talking. Clonmore like to try and gut you. So if they can close it up, say David Murphy and Ross and Murphy, Conal Havern and that, if they can get her packed up, get the ball turned over quickly and get it forward, you know, if they can come up with a plan to get Loughearn and King and the boys on the ball up there and just keep the scoreboard ticking over, that's their best way, you know, suck it up and then go.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward. Johnny, you played against them the it was the 3rd round of the championship, was it?
Yeah.
It was top of the table clash.
3rd round, yeah.
I know you weren't blown away by them that day. And they had a few injuries. Ryan McWilliams, I think, got injured that day, and they had a few boys that maybe weren't playing that day.
Yeah, Ryan, the midfielder, got injured, and Geordie wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Which is a big miss. To get a bit of a niggle, and probably the wise decision, I said at the time, not to play. He's going to be key, and he could actually be the man to pick up quickly and go with him all over the field. And he actually played. We played him in the league, in a game over there, and he played that role where he went, dropped off and came in and sort of played as a playmaker in round the defence and played a sweeper role. So he's very comfortable at doing that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe sacrifice him. As you said, they do have a lot of forward power. Now, whether he's smart enough and he's quick enough, but it's still leaving him with a big job, to Mark Quigley. And I thought in a few positions they were lacking. The real good forward line, like you alluded to, and midfield's not bad. Just a few bits of shakiness. Now they are, as Barra said, they're very good at blocking up the middle, granted. But the discipline and stuff like that, they can be found lacking sometimes, and they can maybe bitch at each other as well. And when a few things goes wrong, there's a few wee things. Now, what I will say is they have improved. They have improved dramatically. They changed management, so there seemed to be a wee bit of an issue there, and they've got. Everybody seems to be buying in, and they've put in a serious effort over the last probably 5 weeks. But you'd have to think Clonmore could just have a wee bit more streetwise and a wee bit more class. Now, in saying that, you know, if Thomas Davis forwards click and they get that match up right with Sean Quigley, you know, that changes everything, because the Clonmore defence is there for the taking too. They can be, you know, as Barra also said as well, the way they will try and get Donaghy back in there to cover, and 2 or 3 men to cover that half back line, because they are a bit afraid of exposing the full back line, you know. So it all depends on how much ball they can get in. But I still think, you know, Clonmore come down from intermediate last year, it could be just too streetwise, and you know, probably one man we didn't mention that much was Brendan. He is very, very smart player, and he's another man you go to try and keep ball away from one midfielder. This is a man who's very, very safe hands, can pop up on the other end and feel a massive amount of ball and doesn't waste it. Very, very old fashioned, you know. So yeah, that's my assessment on it.
Well, there's two things there I sort of want to touch on. Just firstly, Padraig, the aspect of Thomas Davis trying to shut down the middle of their defence, you know, to stop that sort of Clonmore's hard runners down the middle. Does that change come to the athletic grounds? Because obviously it's a bigger field and it plays bigger and that. Like, is it harder to do that, to shut down your defence?
I definitely think so. As I said, it has to be complete discipline from everybody. And as Donny said, everybody buying in. It's a massive thing. So it is. Everybody needs to be on the same page. Everybody needs to move as one unit going across. You cannot let anybody going through the middle, especially for Clonmore, not a chance, you know. And then if they do decide to go wide as well, then you need to watch the runs from inside as well. That's what Clonmore will do. They'll want to try and get as many goals on here and try and, you know, bury the game as quick as possible. But I find that if a team is going in on underdogs and they're playing on a big pitch, it's actually not the defensive aspect that's the problem. It's going forward in the turnovers, because the turnovers can kill you, so they can. Especially if you are trying to play a lot patient football and you know you're going in as the underdogs. You know, you can try everything. You can try and mark quickly. You can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's in your own hands. You know, if there is turnovers, a high level of turnovers, if the ball drops short, especially the ball dropping short, that's criminal, because it'll allow Clonmore to transition as quick as they want. So it is. So Thomas Davis is going to really have to try and find that balance between, you know, attacking efficiently and then obviously being strict in defence and being disciplined as well.
Just on Brendan Donaghy, Barra, obviously unbelievable county player, unbelievable career with Armagh. How important is he? Because he's the player manager as well alongside James Grimley. So like he has a lot of stuff on his mind between the build up and actually playing. But his influence on the team, leadership, quality, whatever else you want to call it, that Johnny talked about him covering around the defence, coming out to midfield and winning important football as well. So how important is he?
It's absolutely vital to Clonmore. And you know, we didn't play them this year or last year because they were an intermediate, but the year before that, when they came to Newtown, it was an attritional game that Clonmore won by a point. And I remember us having the ball maybe for the last 8 minutes and not being able to get a score at home, and Brendan Donaghy had just finished with Armagh, and he just replicated Armagh's system. So where we were trying to work it maybe from one side to the other, he was calling, you know, before anybody was calling, he was calling, and he had people coming out, people coming back, people coming across. Very, very vocal, very well organised. It was, you know, it was very hard to be standing on the line to see that your team couldn't break that down, to the point that when we played them away that day, we flipped it completely round. We said, we are not running this ball to 6. We're kicking it over 6. And we went after Rory Cunningham at full back, and we bombarded. We put Emmett O'Malley into full forward. We kicked ball after ball over Donaghy's head to the point that Donaghy was nearly playing on the 14, which completely changed their game. We went in at half time 7 points up in that game. Now they come back. There was in Friday night, and we had a man sent off, and they come back and won by 2 points. But again, I think Johnny had said, they like to protect that full back line at all costs, and they do it well. And when you try and run it, it doesn't really work. But if you try and go over it, it asks a few more questions. But for that to happen, you need an excellent kicker here, you need an excellent pair of hands here, and you need a finisher in off the pair of hands. So not everyone in junior football has all those ingredients. Well,
that maybe comes back to what I was saying about Ryan Courtney, because I was at the O'Hanlon's game and he did come out the field, and he's sort of playing that role that you're talking about, on a 2-point threat as well. So if they have somebody like him that's going to find the likes of Adam Lahern inside, like that's the sort of players you're talking about.
That's what they need to be at.
Yeah, so a lot to divulge there.
That's actually where we expose them. We expose them because, as Barra knows, like, we're good at the kicking game. At a certain point of the field, when we get the midfield, we're very good at hitting a full forward line, hitting the likes of myself in there, getting into the pockets, you know. So exactly, 100 nail on the head, brilliant. Yeah.
Will we get predictions then, Johnny? How do you see it going?
I think Clonmore will be too streetwise. And another thing what they're good at is that, you know, it can be very, very dangerous from the throw-in. And that's where Quigley can pop on one and be in the back of the net in seconds. And straight away, Thomas Davis can't get a chance to get set.
Yeah.
And you're off to a bad start and ready, which don't rule out not happening. And the only way to deal with it is he comes down through the middle the first time you put him on top of his head. You take a yellow card if needs be in the first play of the game. And then he says, right, if he's coming down again, he's looking over his shoulder to see who's coming next. And that's the way, unfortunately, it's championship football, and that's the way you have to play it. But I think Clonmore could be just coming down from into me. I think they'll be too streetwise, and I'm gonna say Clonmore.
Padraig, who do you see?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what everybody was saying is Clonmore, obviously, just with the previous fixtures and, you know, the build up to the championship. Clonmore probably had it right and you know, at the right time, so they'll start picking up. They got that game against, you know, St Michael's there, which was a big test for them, you know, in testing conditions, especially to get over the line there. Is, you know, it's a huge credit to both teams even putting on a performance in conditions like that there. So Clonmore got over the edge. If it's good conditions, you know, if it's in the athletic grounds, there's no real excuses, so there's not. What I'm wishing is that Thomas Davis set up as best that they can, be as strict as they can, and, you know, be as disciplined as they can. Don't let them men get them easy frees. Don't let them get through the middle too easy, from the side too easy, and just really work as a unit for 60 minutes. But ultimately, I see that Clonmore takes the victory.
Barra, how do you see it?
Yeah, I see Clonmore as well. I really hope it's a shootout. I hope that Thomas Davis bring, you know, loads of energy going forward. I hope that they score the 15, 18 points that we were trying to score and that limit Clonmore. But, you know, a good part of me can't see Sean Quigley being denied again. So, like, either if I was Sean Quigley or if I was Sean Quigley's manager, I might start him at full forward in that game and give him a free roll out round, you know, that they can't set up out the field and make it predictable. But as Johnny says, I nearly forgot that. If I did forget to say that, throw up Keelan Donaghy reaching and catching it and giving it to Sean Quigley coming on the diagonal run. It's very hard to defend again, as Johnny's saying, because if you've got your 6 or your 7 making a beeline for him, he's making a diagonal run and trying to time it here. So this boy maybe has to go to him, which is leaving Grimley maybe here for a pop over the head, and before you know it, they're in behind you. So it's very, very important maybe that whoever's jumping with Donaghy, I would say foul him or stop it there rather than let it get to Quigley. But I hope Sean Quigley goes and has a super game, shows us all the talent and ability that he has, and that Thomas Davis have the players to match it.
Clonmore to win?
Clonmore to win.
Yeah, so I think by our votes it's a Clonmore and Portmore final, so that'll be good fun if it happens. Thanks everybody for tuning in. That's all for our junior preview. Thanks to Johnny, Barra and Padraig for coming on. Thanks to Sean on the camera, and thanks for Squire for hosting us in this brilliant wee bar he has out the back. We'll be back on Thursday with an intermediate preview show coming up as well, and we'll look ahead to their semi-finals. So chat to everybody then.